ចា៎នេះខ្ញុំសូមអនុញ្ញាតគោរពជម្រាបសួរអាយដាមលោកជំទាវលោកលោកស្រីនាងកញ្ញាភ្ញៀវកិត្តិយសរួមជាមួយទស្សនិកជនទាំងអស់ជាទីគោរពរាប់អានចា៎សូមស្វាគមន៍ Very good morning and welcome. Thank you all for joining at a very important high-level panel discussion on electrifications of vehicles for Cambodia's future. This is very exciting event, electrification of vehicles for Cambodia cleaner future. So we are basically talking about EV. We'll refer to that later on. My name is Nana. Will be your host for this live event and for the discussion. Allow me to first thank you very much to our VIP speaker who is joining us this morning. And I saw that each of you two arrived in an EV vehicles. I mean, I was very excited. The car was super cool. But at the same time, I was like, why an MC is not being picked up? I should too. I will suggest that in the next program. It reminded me because about 10 years ago, I used to have two EV bikes. But back then, it was only because I couldn't afford like a normal motorbike, only for an EV one. It was very cheap and affordable. But then we're also having some challenges of the problem itself. So let's look at 2021, how EV has been developing. And if I can see already from the look from the car itself, I mean, it's impressive. And I will get to hear the experience of our 4 VIPs of how does it feel like to arrive in an EV cars. I want to quickly introduce our guests for this panel discussion first. First of all, very good morning to His Excellency Senior Minister Chanthol, Minister of Public Work and Transport. We have His Excellency Rottanak. Good morning, His Excellency again. Minister attached to Prime Minister, Managing Director of, I've been practicing this, Electricité de Cambodge. Oh, that was pretty nice.
Pretty there.
Almost there. And then we have His Excellency Pablo Kang, Australian Ambassador to Cambodia. And we have, of course, Her Excellency Redshaw, the British Ambassador to Cambodia. Good morning. All right, before I move on to the question of each of our speaker, I want to first acknowledge the organizer of this event, Energy Lab Cambodia, in partnership with Australian Embassy of Phnom Penh, British Embassy in Phnom Penh, Ministry of Public Work and Transport, Electricité de Cambodge, and it's made possible with the support of Cambodian Climate Change Alliance, funded by the European Union, United Nations Development Programme, and Sweden, and implemented by the National Council for Sustainable Development. Thank you very much for all your support for making this event possible. All right, we don't have much time. Let me jump to the question for the panel discussion. I'm very excited to hear, first of all, from His Excellency Senior Minister Chanthol. You have just had a ride in an EV vehicles. How did it feel like? And if you can also elaborate on what are your thoughts on the role of how does electrification of vehicles would play in the future for Cambodia?
Great, thank you very much. First, allow me to also express my appreciation to the organizer, also to the British Embassy, the Australian Embassy for inviting us to discuss about the EVs in Cambodia. This morning I had the opportunity to be driven by Ambassador Redshaw from our Ministry of Public Work and Transport to the hotel in Jaguar EV car. This is I-Pace. It was my first time actually to ride in the EV. I was so impressed with the quality of the car. From the outside, beautiful. Inside also beautiful. But it's so smooth, it's quiet. And you don't really see the difference really between the normal combustion engine and the EV car. Except this car is quieter. So it's a great car. I think EV has a future in the world and also in Cambodia. Today, Cambodia's transportation sector spend around 46% of the total energy consumption in Cambodia in the transport sector. So we're committed to also to participate in reducing the emission by 2030 on 27%. So the EV can play a major role in contributing to reducing the emission to the environment. And so we are very pleased that we have a program today to discuss about the EV, to inform our people that this car, this EV vehicle, is available in Cambodia, and I think it's going to be the future of the transportation mode in Cambodia. We would like to see that we use this technology to leapfrog or to change, just like in the telecom sector, you will.
Yeah.
Before, Cambodia didn't have any mobile, but now we gave 3G, 4G, 5G,
Yeah.
even ahead of the country in the region. We'd like to see the same thing for the EV. So we are going to be working, actually, to be honest with you, we already draft the land transport policy that include the EV in there, you know, and the transport, land transport policy will discuss with the participation of the Ministry of Mine Energy, with EDC, with Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology, Innovation, with Standard, with Ministry of Environment, we have in there, with Custom, with Tax Department and so on. So in general, our government support the EV in the country, but we need to work further to determine the standard. We need to work closer with our custom, our tax department to see what kind of tax incentives, what kind of custom duties incentives that we can provide to the owner of the EV.
Yeah.
We need to work with our colleagues, EDC. How can we put all the charging stations around the country? Do we have the grid that connect to that location? So
Yeah.
this is the kind of thing that our ministry, we will be working closely with our colleagues, as you can see, Kang Rottanak, the Minister attached to the Prime Minister's office, and also the head, the MD of ODC.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned tax already. It was actually my next question.
Okay.
But we'll go deeper to that later. Now, I wanted to get just the impression of how it feels also from His Excellency Kang Rottanak. And because, you know, it's directly connected to your very important work, EDC. How did it feel like? And we're going to be using a lot of electricity if we are about having an EVs. Can you prepare already for that? And what you think the future might look like?
Thank you, Ms. Nana, and thank you, Ambassador Pablo, Ambassador Tina, all the viewers, organizer for this event. I thank you both for the joint initiative for this debate. And it has given me immense pleasure to be here with Senior Minister Chanthol for this discussion. When I was taken by Ambassador Pablo this morning in Ambassador Tina's car, EV car, what came to my mind was a couple of things. One is that the ride was smooth and particularly very clean. It has every luxury of any traditional car, conventional car, without the emission that the world hates. That is one. Second thing, it came to my mind even louder in that while I was having this pleasure of being driven in by this supercar, basically, I was thinking to myself, what if we could extend that privilege and to make it more like a basic right for the mass people out there in not individual light transport like individual cars, but in the form of public transports that would have much bigger impacts.
Yeah.
Of course, EV car, individual cars will have impacts, but I think it would be better still if that could be extended to public transport, be it rail or buses that will be able to bring people in larger number. So that was the second thing that came to my mind. And the third thing, seeing the immense benefits this EV could have, be it for small individual cars as well as public modes of transport, I was thinking to myself that this is the critical time for Cambodia and the world to join hands to create a larger coalition for change. And in fact, the change I'm talking about is not any new invention basically electric vehicles began to have its presence in the world more than 100 years ago. So sometimes when people think about change, they tend to think about something new.
Yeah.
But in fact, the change in this situation is more a repeat of history. But because it began more than 100 years ago, and it failed quite drastically as well,
Right.
the world had to do a lot of soul searching in terms of why EV failed in the past and why the promise of the future and today would be greater given the technology that we know, given the infrastructure and the social readiness that we have. So we'll see. I hope this debate will highlight on some of the things that perhaps have failed in the past, some of the things that perhaps we have learned, but also provide us with new groundwork
Yeah.
for a success and sustainability into the future.
Thank
So I look forward to this debate very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Kang Rottanak. I mean, as much as I'm enjoying your answer, I was like, how long was the ride? There was very important thoughts. I saw you only coming like
Long enough.
long enough. It must have been very smooth that he enjoyed the car at the same time. So many important thoughts come to mind. Good driver.
Smooth driver.
All right, thank you. Next question would be going to His Excellency Pablo Kang. Well, we met a few times, and I know you like to post photos and videos as a person as well, not just as an ambassador. And one of the video you posted on Twitter was you and His Excellency Kang Rottanak enjoying the two-wheelers, the motorbikes, somewhere on the island, powered by solar, correct?
Yeah, I was in Stung Tro, and we had a good time that day, and getting there by boat. I do want to apologise again to the farmers and the mung beans that I ran over.
It was a good thrill.
Well, you know, I don't often get to ride on electric bike, but yeah, I think they're okay now.
They were okay now. But
Yeah.
he was like a pro.
He was, yes. He put me to shame.
All right. So you actually have a lot of experience in that, and you also talk in the video about the role of Australian government in supporting clean energy here in Cambodia. In fact, we have just concluded the Clean Energy Week, which was Australian Embassy was the founded sponsors in the very beginning. Can you explain a little bit more on Australian government commitment on that sector, and what are your thoughts on the future of EVs in Cambodia?
Sure, Nana, thank you. Thanks for the question, and good morning, Excellencies, again, and thanks to the organisers and everyone involved, including in Clean Energy Week, which was a great success. I guess we take a couple of different approaches to supporting clean energy in Cambodia. One is through direct project support. So I think the example of being in Stung Tro that day, because we were piloting off-grid solar to this village that wasn't, for reasons of remoteness, able to be connected yet to the national grid. So there's a number of off-grid projects that we support around the country, working with the private sector, because again, in a lot of these cases, they're not necessarily commercially viable on their own, just because of reasons of remoteness, or the people that are being tried to connect to the grid, the populations aren't very big. So we try and provide some incentives. But also in a policy support sense. So the Australian government has been supporting the development of Cambodia's draft renewable energy strategy, which forms part of the overall power development plan for Cambodia out to 2040. And that's very important. We've particularly focused on a few different options for uptake of more variable renewable energy into Cambodia's energy mix, and I think the strategy has shown that there's an abundance of, in particular, solar and wind power in Cambodia already. Now, of course, to make those things viable, we need to make sure that there are other costs that are added in, that there's appropriate infrastructure, that we need to have battery backup, we need to have storage, we need to have engine backup. We need to make sure that the variable renewable energy is able to be flexible, to take into account fluctuations in demand, and of course cost effective and reliable at the same time. You don't want the lights to go out in the middle of something. But I think the preliminary analysis from the strategy has shown that even with those additional infrastructure and startup costs, it will have variable renewable energy. If we increase the uptake here, will have a positive impact in terms of making the electricity system cheaper. And so I think where EVs comes in, it's really interesting, of course, and because I think there's a huge potential for EVs in Cambodia to be part of that variable renewable energy uptake. And I guess, you know, they're obviously going to be drawing power from the grid. There's a lot of new technologies that Excellency Rottanak and I were discussing in the car about, you know, fast charging, smart charging, you know, what time of the day, making sure that everyone's not charging at the same time and therefore draining the grid of power.
Yeah.
But even things, as Senior Minister Excellency Chanthol pointed out about needing the charging station infrastructure. And I think it's all very well. Ambassador Tina, I'm sure, goes home every night and charges her car at home or at her official residence. But for driving around Phnom Penh, that's probably easy because you don't drive long distances. But if you're going, say, to Battambang or Kampong Saum, that's a long way. And so we need to make it easier for people to go those long distances, including, as Excellency Rottanak mentioned, public transport. Yeah. How can we do that in a way that is affordable, good for the environment, and encourages people to use more electric vehicles? So it's a very exciting future in front of us, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting. We'll ask the follow-up question on that to His Excellency Kang Rottanak, but maybe later I want to go to Her Excellency Tina a little bit. Because I know you yourself and of course the British Embassy have put so much effort in bringing EV Jaguar here in Cambodia, and also your journey of importing your own Jaguar as well. Why was it important for you, for the British Embassy, to bring in this EV Jaguar to Cambodia?
Thank you very much, Nana, and good morning to everybody. The main reason that we imported a Jaguar I-Pace was that we need to practice what we preach. We've heard this morning already that emissions from road transportation are pretty high, and especially in Cambodia they are high, and it's very important that we seek ways to reduce that. The business case for EVs is clear to us. They're cleaner, they're cheaper to run, they are increasingly cheaper to buy. In a few years, it's not going to be possible to buy a new petrol or diesel car. So being a first adopter is a great thing to be. I feel very proud that I'm the first ambassador in Cambodia to own an all-electric vehicle. It is causing a lot of interest. Yeah. Across the piece, amongst ministers, amongst the general public, and we are, as the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office across the world, we are electrifying our fleet. So eventually, all of our flag cars will be EVs. It's a very important message that we're putting out to the world.
I mean, but one might also debate on how you charge the EV as well. And I mean, COP26 is happening right now, and they're also discussing about this issue. I wanted to further this a little bit, because I mean, I can say I also have a little bit of debate with my own husband before I came here on that. So I wanted to hear your perspective as well. That would help me a lot. Do electric EVs really increase or decrease the climate emission, having in mind that the grid is powered by coal?
Okay, that's a very valid question. I guess I should start by saying an electric vehicle powered by a totally renewable energy grid and power source would be perfect. We're obviously not there yet, but of course we know already that Cambodia has the desire to increase the percentage of renewables and non-coal in the energy mix. But I think it's more than that, though. Having an EV also prevents other noxious gases from being emitted. It prevents particulate matter going into the atmosphere. So yes, of course, it's really important to decrease the carbon emissions, but it's also all of the other emissions, the noxious emissions that a regular combustion engine produces. Yeah. And so we've got to think clean, green, and of course alongside the ever-evolving technology for ensuring that we do get more renewable energy into the energy mix.
Thank you. Okay, can I further that to His Excellency Rottanak about the electrifications? Is the grid ready for it? I mean, if we are now being so inspired, and maybe you should be the second ambassador who own an EV. If more and more people are now having own an EV, is the grid ready for it? And how do you plan any technical supports from EDC? Or you already mentioned actually earlier to support the owner who have EV, the company or the transportation. But can you further a little bit of how EDC might be able to support that journey?
Thank you, Nana. Just weeks before I went to EDC as a managing director of EDC, back in 2008, I purchased a Lexus 600 HL hybrid car. Not all electric car like Ambassador Tina's car, but it was quite something in 2008. And believe me, I enjoyed having it for many years. And it was a hybrid. I'm pretty sure now with all electric car, that pleasure will be a lot more from different angles. So how could EDC be part of that solution? We began our work, we mean the government of Cambodia under the leadership of Prime Minister Hun Sen. We hated the dependency on oil. Cambodia came out from war. Cambodia was under a concerted sanction by the Western world, basically at that point. So what we had for energy generation, for youth transport, everything was basically diesel, gasoline, and petrol. And the idea that we had to really go out and get and secure those that type of energy, oil, was not easy, as we were under sanction. So we began our energy generation based on the hatred, basically, of the dependency on oil. And then we decarbonized our footprint, reduced our dependency by embarking on renewable energy, which has taken advantage from our indigenous sources like hydropower. Because at that time, the technology that was available to Cambodia, say in the early year 2000, was hydro. It was an obvious choice. So where are we now? With a combination of smart policy choices and a steady commitment by the Prime Minister, Cambodia today has a handsome rate of renewable energy in our grid, which is 45% today. And if you look at the global average, we are very, very good. Solar energy in particular, which is intermittent renewable energy source, Cambodia is at almost 9% and going 10% very soon. Globally, solar energy is at an average of 4 to 5%. So we're above that. And if we put import of hydro from Laos together today, collective renewable energy source would be at 60+%. So that bodes well for EV types of introduction. Now, one of the reasons why EV owners would like to go from a conventional car, a switch from conventional car to EV is one, their love for the environment and their social responsibility to make sure that the greenhouse gases will not be there, pollution will not be there, etc., etc. So when you see a cleaner carbon footprint from the electricity generation, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
It helps give them the confidence. I hope it will help give the consumer the confidence that they're not drawing their EV power from dirty fossil fuel. Now, keep in mind that electric vehicles themselves are not clean. They are clean if they draw energy from clean source.
Yeah, true.
If they are clean if they dispose the battery when they are up for disposal in a responsible way. So how do you dispose batteries when you need to change battery? How you draw power from the grid, what source of power that you get determines the real true value of your EVs, essentially. So hearing, Tina, if you hear what I'm saying, you should be able to feel confident and proud that Cambodia is ready for EVs. And I was a user back in 2008 for hybrid, of course not all electric, because technology at that time was that a hybrid was the choice. It is it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
From the environmental perspective, from saving a lot in the maintenance operation. You may spend a bit more when you acquire the vehicles. Upfront startup may be costly, but over the lifespan of the vehicle operation, you spend a lot less on that. And in a nutshell, you save a lot of money. So EDC is confident that if people start to use electric vehicles, it will be good for themselves, will be good for utility like us, and of course it will be good for Cambodia and the world at large. We are confident and we're optimistic, and we are ready.
Yeah.
The only thing that will be an issue though, would be the charging infrastructure like Ambassador and the ministers mentioned.
Yeah.
Now charging infrastructure should not fall 100% under the responsibility of any electric utilities.
Yeah.
It should be, in my view, a combination of a public-private sector partnership because to really expect utility to build charging station for everyone, it would be a tall order. Not that because we don't want to do it, but the immense investment requirement would be an obstacle.
Yeah.
So in my view, a private sector partnership of some kind will offer that solution. And I think United Kingdom, United States, Australia have, many parts of Europe have learned from it as well. And I think Cambodia should look into that modality as a solution.
That was very nicely put together because, like you mentioned earlier, EV is not like suddenly here. Been here for a while. There's a lot of lesson learned. Yeah. I mean, if we have really commitment and people are interested.
If I want to add, the promise of 100 years ago that EVs were easy to drive, that there was no sticky clutches, and the driver did not have to crank the vehicle to start, and was noiseless, clean compared to horse-drawn carriages and the Model T of Ford. The promise was there.
Yeah.
It's just like the promise is we have today, but they failed, and there are multitude of factors that led to the failure. But I hope this time the world is more ready than ever to embrace the technology once again, and we hope that this time we will not make it fail because humanity cannot afford to make it fail.
That's right, totally correct. I think that's perfectly lead to the probably my last question for His Excellency Senior Minister Sun Chanthol, because you actually mentioned the private partnership between private company and government, and I've been hosting a lot of events. I mean, private company would say, yeah, but we need the support from ministry. So I might as well ask this question already. I have some figures here, and I don't want to miscorrect it, so I will just look at the script now. EV are capturing significant market share in other countries. So give a few examples. In Norway, 6 in 10 new cars are EV. Or in China, EV made up 14% of car sales last month. You see status of EV in Cambodia, if you can share that. And the most important thing, is there any government support for EV? Say, for example, you mentioned earlier tax reductions and regulations policy in order to support private company who are committed and very ambitious of owning a company that have EV sales in Cambodia?
Well, EV is a stage in Cambodia.
Yeah.
We have close to 1 million registered car and truck in Cambodia. Out of that, we have only 42 EV car only in the country. 42 so far, okay? But I think that this number will continue to grow. As Kang said, as long as people understand that they draw the energy, charge the battery from the clean grid, as long as we be able to dispose or recycle the battery in a proper manner that protect the environment. And also, if the government will support, especially on the tax incentive. Now, if you buy a normal car today, effective rate around 122%. But for the EV, only 63%. But how many people in Cambodia know about this? Not that many, right? So hopefully today's discussion will let our people know that the effective rate is half of a normal car.
Wow.
Through the reduction of the special tax. Normal car around 50% special tax, but EV only 10%. But if you do effective rate, it's half. But I didn't know that myself. I found out after I prepared for the discussion, that, oh my God, it's only 63%, you know? Yeah, I didn't realize that. As you can see, Rottanak.
Get the checkbook out.
Right?
Get the checkbook out.
Right. So this is important. But I can tell you our ministry also participate in the clean energy. The roof of our building,
I heard that.
all solar panel.
Yeah.
As you say, I'm sorry that I don't use your power from the grid, you know. Daytime is all from the solar panel. But at night we use from the grid. Right?
Yeah.
So we participate in that. We also work with the Global Green Growth Initiative.
Yeah.
For the bus in Siem Reap, 3 lines there. We try that to see how it works. But we're also going to work with the World Bank, with other partners, to increase public transportation using these EVs as the mode. Okay.
Yeah.
I mentioned to Ambassador Tina Redshaw that we, in the process of finalizing the public transportation in Phnom Penh, in terms of either we're using these elevated train, the AGT, Elevated Guided Transit, we use the monorail, or we use the subway. So we have 3 systems that are being conducted. 2 are already done. I'm waiting for the subway study for Phnom Penh, and that obviously going to use the electricity for public transportation. So we do support this EV industry. I mentioned to you early on that we work together with our relevant organization to come up with a strategy. How can we support this EV further?
Yeah.
You know, how can we come up with a standard? Got to be a proper standard. We don't want Cambodia to be a dumping ground for a lousy battery that doesn't last 10 years. We want a proper battery. And then how can we dispose them? We need to have proper policy, not only bringing the car in, but then we don't know how to recycle, how to dispose the battery. So we work together. It's already in our policy, in our land transport policy. We already debate, we already discussed, we finalized that already. Yeah. And in that clearly, with the policy to support the EV. Our traffic law, also there's a section talk about allowing the EV on the road in Cambodia. Yeah. So government as a whole will support this EV industry.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
May I add on charging? I fully agree with my colleague. This should not be the responsibility of EDC, of the government of Cambodia, to build a charging station. The private sector should work with us or should invest in the charging infrastructure. You know, with all the gas stations, let's say, you know, in the rest, on route number 4, for example, they can add the charging station. I will talk to the company that built expressway between Phnom Penh to Sihanouk. There's going to be a few rest area. I want them to, maybe they should include in that project the charging station on that road. Yeah, true. We're going to work with JICA that built route number 5. Maybe we can work on that also to find out, to figure out how to build the charging station. But become chicken and egg. You build a charging station, but no EV. Yeah. Right? So the people said, I don't want to buy EV because there's no charging station. So you said chicken and egg. But I think if everybody believes that the government of Cambodia will support the EV, I think the people will likely going to buy the EV car. In the country. Thank you very much, Senior Minister. I mean, that's not just a perfect answer, but it's actually really show that we are ready for it. I mean, you have all the support you need. You need a little bit more of investment, discussion, and it's also reflect of what I experienced 10 years ago, because my first EV bike was like last 5 months, and then it just went to waste. Then I got a second one, and it lasts for like
8-9 months, and then go to waste again. So, but that was 10 years ago. So if say for example, I know that battery charge can be maybe in the middle of the way. If I'm running out of battery, I can charge and I can replace it. That would be perfect. So it's quite promising. Thank you very much, Senior Minister. I mean, that was a very promising answer. Thank you. Well, let me look at the time. We are perfectly on time, by the way. Thank you very much. I have actually learned a lot myself. Thank you again to our speaker. That was a wonderful discussion. I also, of course, thank you very much for all of you who are joining and all of our viewers. Before I finish, I just would like to acknowledge our partnership again, because we are the people here in front of camera, but there's a lot of people working behind camera in order to make this event possible. I mean, it's not easy to get 4 very important, busy people available at the same time. So it was months and months of preparation. We want to thank the team at the Australian Embassy, the British Embassy, the team, of course, from the MPWT and EDC, and also 3E. Thank you for Cleaner Cambodia for lending the Australian ambassador the electric Pia Chakwa. It was very fancy. Thank you very much for being part of this program. Well, okay, and I was told that the discussion is also on Facebook, so please check it out, continue to share so that we continue this discussion. We're not closing it here. And also special thanks to Energy Lab for initiating and organizing the whole event. Following on the Clean Energy Week, by the way, I have a very important announcement. I didn't know that in January 2022, which is in just a few months away, there will be a showcase of EV mobility here in Phnom Penh. So you want to check that out. That would be the 3rd annual electric mobility showcase. Will be run by Energy Lab at the factory Phnom Penh, again in January 2022, which is just a few months away. So you will see a lot of things you have never seen before. Of course, the 2 cars included this morning. All right, thank you very much. And if you need to learn more about this issue, about this subject, please don't hesitate to go to Energy Lab Facebook page. They have all the very important information there. Again, thank you very much, His Excellency, Senior Minister, His Excellency, Ambassador, for joining us.
It's been a nice ride.
Thank you.
You're very
Thank you. I have one last request though. Can you all maybe go back to the front of the hotel and take a group photo, because we didn't have chance for the group photo when you arrived.
Right.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you.